In this episode of Health Reversion, we're going to have a look at a really important vitamin that is linked to bone and teeth health. So if you're concerned with the structure of your bones, the quality of your teeth, this is the video for you. Vitamin K is a fat-soluble vitamin that comes in two forms. One of those forms is called phylloquinone, or otherwise known as its common name, vitamin K1. This form is largely found in plant-based foods, particularly in leafy green vegetables. The other type of vitamin K is menaquinones, or sometimes referred to as its common name, vitamin K2. And this form of vitamin K is going to be talked about extensively in this video, but its main source is from meat products and fermented foods. The good news for somebody following a vegetarian or a vegan eating regime is that menaquinones, or the vitamin K2, can actually be produced by the gut bacteria if you have a healthy intestinal flora. So if you're in good operating order when it comes to the gut, then the body will naturally produce vitamin K2. So if you are averse to eating animal products, there's nothing to worry about there. Vitamin K is an essential nutrient for blood coagulation, which is the scientific term for blood clotting. Vitamin K also helps to produce a range of proteins that are essential for building bone and teeth. One of the most important functions, though, of vitamin K is to regulate calcium deposition. So the deposit of the nutrient calcium throughout the body. In other words, it promotes the calcification of your bones and your teeth and prevents the calcification of your blood vessels and kidneys, for example. There is no recommended daily intake, daily value, or recommended daily allowance, but that doesn't mean just because the medical establishment has said, oh, this isn't really that important. We need to take responsibility and recognize the vital role that vitamin K, both forms, play in the body, particularly in relation to our bone health, our teeth health, and obviously the deposition of calcium. So if the calcium is being deposited in areas that we don't want it to be deposited, then that's going to spell problems for us later on down the track. So in the absence of an RDI or an RDA or a daily value, there is an adequate intake that you can look at, which is 120 micrograms for men and 90 micrograms for women. Let's now have a look at the highest whole food sources, and I'll do this in two parts. I'll start with K1 and then I'll move to K2. So let's have a look at the highest whole food sources of K1. Up first is kale. 1 cup or 130 grams will yield 544 micrograms, which is 453% of that daily intake that I mentioned before. Up next is broccoli. Cooked broccoli, 1 cup or 156 grams will yield 220 micrograms and provide 183% of the adequate intake. Brussels sprouts, cooked, 1 cup or 156 grams will yield pretty much the same as broccoli, about 183% of the adequate intake. And lastly for K1, cabbage, cooked, 1 cup or 150 grams will yield 163 micrograms and provide 136% of that adequate intake. Now let's have a look at the highest whole food sources for vitamin K2. Here we have beef liver. 3 ounces will yield around 85 micrograms or 70%. Pork chops, 3 ounces will yield 59 micrograms or 49% of that adequate intake. And chicken, 3 ounces will yield 51 micrograms or 43% of that adequate intake. Vitamin K is actually found throughout the body, including the brain, the liver, heart, pancreas, and bone. It is broken down very quickly and excreted through the elimination pathways that the body uses. And because of this, it rarely reaches toxic levels within the body. With respect to deficiency though, vitamin K deficiencies may occur in people that take medications that block the metabolism of vitamin K. These include antibiotics, anticoagulants, so people that need to ensure that their blood doesn't clot, or in those with conditions that affect the malabsorption of nutrients such as Crohn's disease, IBS, diverticulitis, etc. Some possible signs of deficiency include, the first one is bleeding. Now, if you accidentally cut yourself, that bleeding should stop within a couple of minutes. If it takes longer than a couple of minutes for the blood to clot and stop the bleeding, then this may be a sign that you are deficient in vitamin K. The next one is internal hemorrhaging or nosebleeds. Poor bone density, so if you've had a bone scan and it's come up with a suboptimal level of bone density, this could be related to vitamin K deficiency. And osteopenia or osteoporosis. So if you've got a degenerative issue with the skeletal system, this could be related to a deficiency in vitamin K. I wanted to make a special mention about cooking as well, because vitamin K is relatively heat stable, which means it can withstand high heat temperatures and prolonged periods of cooking. And in relation to vegans and vegetarians, something interesting to note is, I know there's a big push for eating raw and eating as apparently, and what we're told, nature intended, but vitamin K1, so for the green leafy vegetables, it's actually located in the chloroplast of the plant cell. Now, the chloroplast is very difficult for the body to break down and to digest. But through the cooking process, the chloroplast is softened and almost pre-broken down. So it gives more bioavailability to the vitamin K1 for those eating large amounts of the vegetables and plant-based foods. So therefore, cooking will actually either retain the levels of vitamin K1 or actually increase them and make them more bioavailable. And a last special mention to vitamin K2. So maybe not so much for the vegans and vegetarians this time, unless you've got that healthy gut that is able to make K2. But getting it as a dietary source is important for the following reasons with relation to bone and teeth health, and I'll explain why. Vitamin K2 activates the calcium binding actions of two proteins, matrix GLA protein and osteocalcin. And these two proteins help to build and maintain bone and teeth. Interestingly, one of the main regulating proteins in dental health is osteocalcin. Osteocalcin triggers a mechanism that stimulates the growth of new bone and new dentine, which is the calcified tissue underneath the enamel of your tooth. So around your tooth you've got the enamel, which a lot of us are trying to retain and keep white, and then inside in the core of that you've got that dentine, and that osteocalcin is really, really imperative to produce more of that. Furthermore, vitamin A and D work synergistically with vitamin K2 with respect to the creation of new bone and dentine. So be sure to check out the episodes on vitamin D and vitamin A. Hopefully I've got that in the right order. I probably haven't, but I'll put it up there. That concludes the entire series for the vitamins. So I've covered all the water-soluble vitamins, all the fat-soluble vitamins. Make sure you go back and have a look through the playlist so that you can ensure that you are getting the whole food sources, or the highest whole food sources, so that your body can extract and utilize those vitamins to do the processes that it needs to do to return to homeostasis, or revert back to homeostasis. If you didn't get anything out of this video, give it a thumbs down. If you got something out of this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've got anything positive to contribute to the video, please leave a comment below. In the meantime, I ask that you keep well, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.